If you're investing in something, like let's say a piece of real estate, you're putting time and money into that real estate, you're looking for a return on investment. You wouldn't just buy any piece of real estate. You would have criteria, you would have terms that you line up. Your business is just like that. You want a return on your time and your resources and your money, so you create criteria of who you're gonna work with. One of the things I talk about in my book, 5+1, is the 5 business disciplines. And in the second business discipline, targeting, we talk about this concept called ideal client. And I was in front of this group and I asked a question. I said, who's your ideal client? And who could explain to me who your ideal client is? And this lady was so enthusiastic, raised her hand, ooh, me. And she stands up and she says, hey, I sell cosmetics. My ideal client is anyone with skin. I said, all right, let me ask you a couple of questions and why this is important. Are your products mainly for men or for women? And she says, well, they're for women. And I said, okay, what kind of products do you offer? Is it all cosmetics specific? She's like, really, it's skincare, lotions and things like that. Okay, great. And is it important that your potential client have money? She's like, well, yeah, of course they have to have money to be able to buy it. I said, well, now you're narrowing in, right? You're narrowing in that it's probably a female who's interested in the care of her skin and has some money, disposable income to buy your product. And those things matter. And the reason they matter is because there was a bunch of other people in this room who, if you said anyone with skin, well, then every one of us is a potential ideal customer. And the reality is when you say it's everyone, it's really no one, because our minds do something called a reticular activator. In our mind, we have this reticular activator that says, I connect with certain things. So for example, have you ever bought a car, the next day you see that car everywhere? Like everyone's driving it. Yesterday, no one was. Today you drive it off the lot and you see it everywhere. It's because you're plugged into that. People around you are plugged in just like that. And so if you can't help them plug into the things that will help them identify your ideal client for you, then it's really nobody. So as we narrow that down, there's a couple of key things to do and why it's important to really have an understanding of who your ideal client is. One of the reasons that you want to get clarity around your ideal client is because it helps you target your efforts, right? It helps you target your messaging, helps you target your marketing, helps you target where to go to look for that ideal client. Otherwise, you're going to spend unnecessary dollars in Facebook ads or Google ads or in other marketing materials that isn't targeted down to who your ideal client is. A lot of people would be looking at your ads that really have nothing to do with your potential product. Another key component to this is when you have this dialed in, it's also ideal because they're the type of people you enjoy working with, right? I signed up recently for a mastermind group, and one of the things that they have on this application is you must be an awesome person. Now, probably there's not anyone that looks at that and goes, well, I'm not an awesome person, I'm not going to fill it out. But the reality is they're trying to narrow down through lots of questions and things the kind of people they want to work with. And what it tells me clearly is they've had in the past people who aren't awesome, people who don't play well together as part of this mastermind group, so they're trying to get that narrowed down. The second and probably most important piece of really understanding your ideal client is so that referral partners can help you. This lady stood up and she talked about who her ideal client is, and understanding that there's a bunch of people in this room who could refer the ideal client to her or her to them, but they can't if it's not clear. And the more clear you can get, and actually the more drilled down a niche you can get, the more likely people are to help you. Understanding that there's already somebody who's done the hard work to get the attention of that ideal client. And that's really the next level, what I call the ideal connector. Once you're clear on your ideal client, you want to go, who are they and where do they congregate? So I can go get in front of the ideal connector. Keeping in mind that ideal connector has done all the heavy lifting, they've done all the hard work. And one of the ways that I do that is when I'm clear on my ideal client, I look for who has their eyeballs, and then that's who I'm gonna follow on my social media accounts. That's who I'm gonna see what they're doing. I wanna get into their world. I wanna get into proximity so that I can get in front of my ideal client through the platform and the network that they've already used. Now that you understand what an ideal client is and really how to, or the benefits of that, what's really helpful is to make a list of who are the type of people that you've worked with that you've really enjoyed, right? So go back through and maybe look at your last 10 clients and list the things that you really enjoyed. Like, what was it that you loved about working with them? Who are they? What's their demographic? What's their age? What's their income? All of those types of things will help you narrow down who your ideal client is. Once you have that, you can even post that out somewhere, write a descriptor, this is who I'm looking for, and put it out on your social media. This is who I love to work with, right? When you let your referral network know who your ideal client is, they're more likely to share them to you. This is super helpful, and I wished I'd learned this really early on in my business, because I think early on I spent so much time sort of chasing potential prospects that never really were my ideal client. Because in my mind, I'm like, I want to just grow my business. I want to add revenue, especially when you're starting. But if you just chase after people that aren't ideal, even if they say yes, you're not going to enjoy working with them, and it's going to be a drag on your business. Remember, you only have so much time, you only have so much money, so many resources to give to potential prospects. If you're going to give all that time anyway, it might as well be with somebody who's ideal that you enjoy working with that fits the criteria you've laid out for them. And that's really the purpose, the best way to look at why you need an ideal client and why you have to have those criteria laid out. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time with no ROI. Look, if this was helpful, would you share it out to a friend who's maybe starting a business and needs to understand why it's so important to find your ideal client and who the ideal connectors are that lead you to those ideal clients? If you master this principle of ideal client and ideal connector together, it's going to save you time and money in the long run. So if this was helpful, make sure you share it, like, and subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you in the next video.